This is TNC Sports Tonight with Raynord, Garbutt and Misael Gonzales. Tonight we'll be taking a look at the PLB and the BEBL. What happened over the weekend? We'll be taking a look at the highlights. We'll be taking a look at the standings, and we also be talking about the upcoming games and what took place inside the Norman Brassard Stadium on Sunday. We'll elaborate on that in this show tonight. So we want you to stay with us. What we'll do first, we'll go to a break, and then when we come back, we will have PLB highlights, scores, and upcoming games for you. We'll be back. Welcome back. Let's take a look at the highlights from last weekend's PLB action.
San Pedro had hosting Benque United, and San Pedro was losing that game up until the 90th minute when Jorge Savila tied the score on a 1-1. Also on Saturday night, Internacional Football Club, or Bandits, they lost a game against Wagia. Two teams that had yet were to win on the tournament, and Wagia came up on top, winning their first match, and with that they move out of that last position. Double game for Sunday inside the Marion Jones complex in Belize City. Port Loyola managed a scoreless draw against Progreso. That's very strong defensively, keeping a clean sheet against one of the best regular teams as Port Loyola. Scoreless draw, and inside the Norman Brassard Stadium, that was a victory for Verdes. Comfortable victory, 3-0 against Altitude, and things towards CONCACAF are pretty much leveled at this point. So those were the results of the weekends. Now we go on to the highlights to see what happened inside the Isidoro Beaton Stadium. It would be Internacional Football Club against Wagia. First opportunity inside the box goes wide from goal, defended by Palma. Another opportunity for the home team. It would be the international player. That first, very questionable call here. It seemed that no contact towards the player, but referee goes on to the penalty. As we can clearly see here, no contact from the defender. Nonetheless, penalty, and Jalen Myers would miss from point blank opportunity. The post would deny his chance. Another one for Internacional Football Club, and it would be Nari securing the first goal for Internacional Football Club, a goal that would stand, although the protest from Wagia was of an offside. Clearly no offside here on the play. Estero didn't time well that ball, and that went over him. Wagia would have their opportunity after a brilliant center from Melendez inside the box, and a cruel finish for them to be tied up at 60 minutes. Wagia was finding some hope after being down in the score, and they would have more, and this time it would be Agustin here, a deflection, but Agustin would secure via the header the winner for Wagia. 2-1 score that gave them their first victory, a much needed one after 7 games. Wagia would secure one away from home, and they would leave that last spot for Internacional Football Club to take. A very young Wagia, young faces, but many talent inside Wagia. At the Norman Brassard Stadium, Verdes against Altitude, first goal. And surprisingly, once again, the defensive line for Verdes is coming up big on the scoring charts, as Zavala once again delivers for Verdes via the header. He opened the score, and it was just 1 minute into the game, a total changer, as that would secure or pave the way for a comfortable win for Verdes. This would be Altitude's first opportunity. This time Garcia towards Woodrow West sends it wide, and it would be a corner kick for Altitude. That was also looking for the equalizer. Second half action, center, and the Uruguayan player scores his first goal after 7 games. Gomez would secure the second goal for Verdes via slight header there on 48 minutes. As also a deflection there from Captain Ely, and goal towards Palomino. That was the second. Verdes would have more. This would be individual effort and a golazo by Eldon Raynord to secure the third goal. And Verdes was cruising into victory against an Altitude that didn't have their best game, although they had recovered important pieces off the injury list. And Verdes would have more. This time it would be 81 minute, and that's where, you know, so many things come in. Palomino with the theatrics, apparently, as he goes down claiming that someone stoned him, and it would be game called off, or Altitude walking off after that apparent aggression towards Colombian goalkeeper Palomino, that leaves the victory for Verdes on a 3-0 score. But we'll review once again the standings before we take a look towards that topic. San Pedro Pirates remains on top with 14 points, now tied up with Verdes also with 14 points. Port Loyola is third with 12. Benque United is fourth with 11. Progreso FC is fifth with 10. Altitude 6th with 9. 7th Waguia with 3. And Internacional Football Club last place with 2. It's been a long time since we haven't seen a Premier League of Belize so competitive. Between the first and the 6th spot, there is only 5 points difference, and that is to congratulate all of the teams participating, because they are going all in for the championship. Now we review what's coming up next on the weekend. We have important matches. What used to be El Clasico before, Internacional or Bandits against Verdes inside the Isidoro Beaton Stadium. Also on the 4th of March, that's Saturday, Benque United against Altitude inside the Marshall X Stadium. We go on to Sunday, Progreso against San Pedro Pirates, 3:30 start inside the People's Stadium, and Port Loyola against Waguia inside the Marion Jones Stadium. That's the lineup for the games coming up this weekend.
All right, what we'll do, we'll go to a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk a little bit about the closing minutes of the ball game inside the Norman Broster Stadium between Altitude and Verdes. So stay with us. We'll tell you what we know. As mentioned just before we went to the break, Misael, we want to talk about the very controversial action inside the Norman Broster Stadium on Sunday, where goalkeeper Oscar Palomino, went down. The cameras...
Yeah, for sure, we could say that we don't have video evidence that
right.
could totally guarantee that he wasn't, stoned. But, for what we see and we have, checked, it seems that there was no aggression from Verdes fans. So.
Right. There were 4 gentlemen sitting outside the stadium, one of whom I know, that mentioned to me what he saw. No, this is his, it's not mine, it's his. And he said that he saw the goalkeeper picked up the stone, put it next to his water bottle, and then put the stone in his waist, went into the 18-yard box, threw himself down, and set the stone beside him. Yeah. Now, that story was corroborated also by the ball boy, who was immediately behind the goal. And he gave the same...
same version.
Right,
so you can know that there is no organization between them to actually say the same thing, right?
Right.
So that gives some credibility onto that aspect. Well, the immediate reaction was, it could have been an aggression from the Verdes fans, but then if you also go on to think, why would they do if they're winning on a 3-0 score? If it would probably come from the away team, that your team is taking 3, and if the goalkeeper is a factor, it could be that their same fans could be the aggressors in this case. But it's very sad for an international player, especially to go on to those actions after taking 3 goals on a match, and that's very, very sad to see. Also, the video footage, observing very close, you can see no signs of pain on him. You can actually see him smiling, asking for assistance and trying to raise his hands.
Yeah.
So then you can question if that was real, because you can clearly see he is not in signs of pains. What you can see is a smile from him, like he's kind of laughing of what he has just done. And that's very sad.
No, Misael, what we also know was that the match commissioner, along with the PLB, offered to take Palomino to the hospital, which the management staff, along with the coaching staff, said no, we will take care of it. This opportunity was given to them. Now, if your player is in severe pain, because I mentioned in my comments that if someone threw the stone at him, it could be a fractured shoulder bone.
Yeah, because you can see the size of the stone, and it's not a small stone.
Right, it's not. It wasn't a small stone. Yeah. So if the league comes and say, listen, we will take the player to the hospital, which is what the league's supposed to do, and they offer that, and the offer, it was denied by the coaching staff and the management staff. Now you have your goalkeeper, your number one goalkeeper, in severe pain. The first thing you would want to do is to let this player get medical attention to see the severity of his injury. Yeah,
and then that's one thing, and then also the fact that the stone would come from a distance, because there was no one behind, there is no bleachers behind Norman Brasser on that side, right? So the only way, or the first persons that were to blame were the persons that were there, right? But imagine if that stone came from there with that distance, that stone would have done some damage if it was impacted on Oscar Palomino, right? Because that's a distance, and the size of the stone, you would have for sure several marks, if not fracture,
major bruise
from those or from that stone, right? So then it's sad to see a player go way onto those theatrics and tricks just to end the game, because it seems that was his intentions. Altitude was taking 3 from Verdes, and it seems that there was no way out, and that was the easy way out for Oscar Palomino in this match. And it's very sad, because that created some confrontation between Verdes players, Altitude players, and then we saw management in the stadium or inside the pitch where they actually don't belong. So
and what makes it more interesting, Misael, is that both the physical trainer from Altitude and Verdes went to attend to Oscar Palomino, and not one of them were allowed to lift up his sleeve. And you can see in the footage, all they did was spray whatever they sprayed on him and throw water on him. Now, why wasn't the league allowed to say, all right, let me take a look at your shoulder?
Yeah, and then
that didn't happen.
Yeah. But Coach Wilmer there, we can clearly see he knew that the camera was there, and he was pointing the stone. We know the stone was there, right? We actually know that the stone was real.
Right.
But what we can't guarantee, because we have no evidence of him, we haven't seen a bruise on him or him posting, this is what I got from the aggression inside the Norman Brasser Stadium. Nothing has come up forth, and then that makes you really wonder, and almost could guarantee that there was no aggression from no one inside the Norman Brasser Stadium. And that's, the action is very sad to see that a player can go that far,
And maybe we could go back to that. We just saw where Jaro James, he picked up the stone right there. Jaro James picked up the stone, and it's not in the vicinity of the goalkeeper. You see where the goalkeeper at?
Sorry.
And then Coach Wilmer went and retrieved the stone, brought it to the camera. But my thing is, Misael, you traveled over 100 miles from San Ignacio to Independence. Why would you risk having your number one goalkeeper travel that distance in severe pain? The first thing you would have wanted to do is get a medical.
Ensure that the guy is good. Yeah, the guy is good to go. Because you can see the size of the stone. I mean, I'm stoned with that from 10 feet, and you would have some severe bruises, and we haven't seen not one picture from Palomino. Actually, I had some contact with him, and he has been very slow in responding because he feels, I assume, that there is no way out of this, because it's been discovered that it's basically theatrics what he did on Sunday's game. So that's a very sad gesture, and sad,
very sad
for him and for Altitude, for football. That image is surely not what we wanted to see out there. I'm not sure if there is so many things in mind now, but what is sure is that those acts should not be tolerated. Some sanctions should come, if not for the club. I mean, the club is not to pay for an individual error, but he should be sanctioned if the league can, guarantee that the player was not aggressed on, and to set an example, because this is sad.
It is a severe penalty, and when you look at social media and what is coming out of Independence, some of the Altitude fans, they're outraged about what is happening, and they're saying, just wait until Verdes comes to Independence, and
and that's the sad part, because we have actually seen aggressions down south, and in Independence, in the Michael Ashcroft Stadium, and against Verdes, we saw that aggression, and although, it's not Altitude's fault, a club cannot control the fans, but the security has to be there, and that time that footage was sent of a player kicking on few of Verdes players, and some sanctions came, but that's not what we want to see in football.
Right.
There are signs of no aggression towards Palomino, and there should be no aggression towards no club, wherever or whichever stadium you play. This is a family sport. It should be that.
I have something here that I researched from the PLB, and it talks about inciting hatred and violence as part of their status. This is what governs the league, and it says, for a player, a match official, or individual in a team delegation, if they incite hatred or violence, it says that match suspension of at least 12 months and fine of at least Belize dollars 500. Yeah. So
those are the penalties that we can see forthcoming for Palomino, or anyone that's caught on that infringing that part of the regulations of PLB. So now is the time to implement many of those things, to set an example, to set it on record, because those are things that cannot happen. That was not what I thought happened, and it's sad to see that whichever way it comes, from a national or international player, but usually when it comes from an international player, we expect more from them,
right?
Because we expect a better level of competitiveness. We expect for them to be ready to be, and Palomino is short on that, seems like, and that's very sad. And
clearly, we want to say tonight that we are not saying that Palomino is guilty, because the league will launch an investigation into the matter. So we are not saying that he is guilty until the findings of the league, and when the league presents what they found and where they will go with it, if he's guilty or if he's innocent. So we don't want you to think that we are already passing judgment on Oscar Palomino. We are not doing that. But what we are saying is that we hope that all players within the PLB, what I just read, it is very important that you all understand what is going on when it comes to inciting hatred or violence. And so we want you to refrain from that. Right now, we want to shut it down right now, Misael, so that, we don't want to hear a player being suspended for a year because of hatred and violence.
Yeah, and then it comes with the factor that we don't want to see those scenes in the PLB. It happens in many amateur leagues in the country. We have seen many footages from villages, from towns, of players taking it on the field and so forth. But that's not what we want to see in our top flight league. And it's time to rethink stuff and actually play football. Yes,
that's correct. Play football. And so as we come to an end of the PLB half hour You know, it was a pleasure to always sit beside Misael as we look into football. We are both lovers of sports, you know, and when people out there are saying that we are inciting, or I am inciting, or Misael is inciting, that is not our plan at all, or our idea to incite anything into sport, because of the fact that we are here representing the PLB, we are representing the BEBL, we are representing whatever sports entity that we are covering. But we just have to call it as we see it,
That's
you
right.
know.
And you know, this is a profession, or you know, sometimes a hobby that you know, sometimes when you speak truth, you know, it it irritates many, and then you know, I have learned to discover that when a club needs to put out something to the public, they'll call you. You know, you'll be the first one to be called.
Right.
But when you publish something against or that's wrong on their end, that's you know, that they'll take it personal. You know, and that's not the profession or the way it should be. You know, we should accept in any or flaws, and you know, we are here because we love the sport. You know, and it's good to see that sometimes there are many people that also are falling in love with the sport and follow the streams and so forth, you know.
All right, what we'll do, we'll go to a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about BEBL, what took place over the weekend. So stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's take a look at the result from last weekend's BEBL action. Hurricanes going up against the Defenders. Hurricanes home game. And in that game, it was the Defenders coming off a loss to Punta Gorda Panthers the week before with the victory 75-66. Also on Friday, inside the Orange Walk Sporting Complex, where Orange Walk defeated San Pedro Tiger Sharks by a score of 91-83. Back-to-back wins for the Orange Walk Running Rebels, and they are looking in very, very good condition. On Saturday, inside the UB Gymnasium, Belmopan Red Tigers with a victory over Western Ballers 98-90. Back-to-back wins again for the Belmopan Red Tigers. And the game on Saturday night also in Dangriga inside the Russell Chester Garcia Auditorium. It was a home team. Griga Dream Ballers looking very, very good in that impressive win over Punta Gorda Panthers by a score of 95-64. Let's take a look at some of the footage from the game that was played inside the Civic Center, a jam-packed Civic Center on Friday night. Saw the strip there, Nigel Jones with 2 of his 20 points in the ball game to go along with 9 rebounds and 2 block shots in 37 minutes. And it was a very close game in the first half. And there you see the jumper there by, and it was a very active game, I must say, between the Defenders and the Hurricanes, and it was for bragging rights. Off the slum, and you see how pumped up the player was there from the Hurricanes. Dillard, the big man right there, wearing number 13 on his back. Lindsay Lopez. And there comes the jam. But Nigel Jones, taking it coast to coast, goes with the layup. He was fouled. And Nigel Jones, once again, very, very active in the ball game. That's Victor right there, who had a solid first half for the Hurricanes. But in the first half, Lindsay Lopez went down in the ball game, and it changed the whole dynamics of the game in the second half when Lindsay Lopez went down with an injury. He took an elbow to his face. Blood was gushing out of the cut. Not sure how big the cut was, but he had to be taken out of the ball game. And you see Lindsay Lopez right there with the steal against Nigel Jones. But Nigel Jones getting back defensively with the block. Lindsay Lopez asking where to foul, and you can see both players going at it. Lindsay Lopez telling Nigel Jones, you talk too much, but hey, he backed up his talk with his play in that game on Friday night, coming off with the big victory, the 75-66 in front of a jam-packed Civic Center. Then we move the action into the UB Gymnasium, where the Belmopan Tigers looking good teams are really shaping up in the BEBL, playing very good on their home court. The Belmopan Red Tigers, it was Jeremy Tony who had 34 points in the win to go along with 13 rebounds in 35 minutes. Benjamin Page also chipped in with 21 points to go along with 12 rebounds in 35 minutes in the win for the Belmopan Red Tigers. In the loss for Western Ballers, it was Michael Gordon who has been playing lights out for the Kaya Western Ballers. He had 29 points to go along with 9 rebounds in 36 minutes of that ball game. As you can see, Richard Smith, the third right there, got hurt, hobbled off the court, but then Richard, that's the jam there by the Kaya Western Ballers, 3-point ball. And so Kaya Western Ballers, they were in this ball game, but the Red Tigers were just a little bit too much for the Ballers on Friday night. Then we move the action now into the Russell Chiste Garcia Auditorium, where Daniel Conarkey making his BEBL debut with the Dangriga Dream Ballers. And this one was close up until the second quarter. You see the pass there, and Boeing with the jam, the pass from Jaheim Siego, who has stepped up his game over the last 3 games for the Riga Dream Ballers. The 3-point miss, but the Siego right there to clean up off the offensive glass with the putback. In this ball game, it was Devon Campbell right here with the ball. Devon Campbell with the lob to Siego. Siego going high with the jam. Beautiful basketball at that juncture of the ball game between Riga Dream Ballers and the Punta Gorda Panthers. Again, another lob, this time from Boogie Mitchell to Siego, and this guy could sky. Talking about Siego, this guy can really jump. But it was Devon Campbell with 22 points. Conarkey driving to the hoop, getting 2 off the glass. Again, Conarkey. And this was at the end of the ball game in the fourth quarter, where Devon Campbell finished the game with 22 points to go along with 5 rebounds, 6 assists in 32 minutes. Jaheim Siego had 16 points, 6 rebounds in 24 minutes in the win. In the loss, it was Tavian Davis with 28 points and to go along with 4 rebounds in 32 minutes for the PG Panthers. We take a look at the standings. Belize Hurricanes on top with 10 points. The Defenders in second with 8. Dream Ballers, Riga, moving up in the standings with 8. Running Rebels. I see Orange Walk Running Rebels right there in the 4th position. So if the playoffs should start this weekend, it would be Hurricanes, Defenders, Ballers, and Rebels. Western Ballers sits right there in the 5th position, so it's a huge game for them coming up this weekend. Red Tigers with 6 points, PG Panthers with 6, and Tiger Sharks with 5. It's not a, when you look at the standings, it's not a favorite spot where you normally see San Pedro Tiger Sharks. They are either on top of the leaderboard when they were in the NEBL or right there in 2nd place. But now they are sitting in 8th place, and I was made to understand that the Tiger Sharks will be bringing in some more international players to join on with the team. I know that they sent back the African player that they brought in, and so let's see what Rico Black will do. We know he always have a trump card up his sleeve. So the game's coming up for this weekend. On March the 3rd, on Friday, inside the Belize Civic Center, Defenders will be going up against Orange Walk Running Rebels. This will be an interesting game, a very interesting game for both teams. Defenders will be looking to rebound from the loss against Hurricanes, while Orange Walk Running Rebels will be looking to keep their winning streak going. Also on Friday, inside the Sacred Heart Auditorium, Western Ballers will be looking to bounce back from against the San Pedro Tiger Sharks. Both teams struggling going into week 6, so we'll see who will come out with the victory on Friday night. Then on Saturday, the PG Panthers will be at home, where they play very strong, where they defeated the Defenders. They'll be going up against a very strong opponent in the likes of the Belmopan Red Tigers. And also on Saturday night, Riga Dream Ballers, back-to-back home games, will be hosting the Belize Hurricanes, coming off the loss against the Defenders. Folks, this game is going to be a very, very important game. And I know that the fans from Rangriga, they'll be out in numbers. It will be a jam-packed Russell Chester Garcia Auditorium in Dangriga for this Hurricanes Griga Dream Ballers game. What we'll do, we'll go to a break, and when we come back, I will touch on Hurricanes Defenders game briefly before we wrap up our show tonight. I'll be back. As we are back in the final segment of our show tonight, like I mentioned, I want to talk a little bit about the Defenders and the Hurricanes in the game that played on Friday night, last week Friday night, inside the Civic Center in front of a jam-packed Civic Center. I estimated that there were about 3,000, a little bit more than 3,000 in the gym that night. Now, that game was, well, it was for the bragging rights. Who is the better team in the city? Clearly, you see the Defenders sitting on top of the leaderboard, but does that make the Defenders the better team in Belize City by defeating the Hurricanes? The Defenders came out, and early in the game, it was the Hurricanes who took charge of the ball game. The Defenders found themselves down about 7 to 8 points going into the second quarter of that ball game. But when you have a coach like Coach Matthew Smiling, and I cannot remember the name of his assistant coach, who used to play basketball also at a very high level, you know, anything can happen. Anything can happen. And so when the Defenders settled down in that ball game, it was Lorenzo Dillard, who took over the game in the second half. And I mentioned that also Glency Lopez went down to start the second half of that ball game. He took an elbow, or could be the end of the first half. He took an elbow to the face where he got a cut, and blood was just gushing out of the cut. He had to be taken off the court into the locker room, and he never did return for the game. I think that was the deciding factor in that game when Glency Lopez came out of the ball game, because then Victor Evans, who was doing a lot of damage in the first half at the shooting guard, he had to take over at the point guard position. And it took away from Victor Evans' game because you know, he started to look for his players in Chris, and you know, try to get other guys in the ball game, Chris Frazier and the rest of the team in the ball game, and so it took away from Victor Evans' game, the way that he was playing in the first half when Glency Lopez went down. In the second half, Lorenzo Dillard stepped up in the ball game, really stepped up his game. I don't know if Coach Matthew Smiling gave him the green light, but that's what it seems like to me, that he got in the green light, and this guy just turned up to another level. And then he was supported by Nigel Jones, who had 20 points in the ball games, like I mentioned, with 9 rebounds, 3 blocks in 37 minutes. Lorenzo Dillard came out of the game with 27 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals in 37 minutes. And then you had the supporting cast like Farron Lariano, who supported. You had Gregory Chipper-Rodon, who came off the bench. And so it was a collective team effort, getting them back in the ball game and then pulling off the victory against the Belize Benny's Hurricane in a score of 75 to 66. A very low scoring game, but you know, a 9 points win for the Defenders. But it just shows that this team is poised. You know, they can go all the way. They can go all the way in the 2023 BEBL season. But you have other teams that are really progressing right now. The Orange Walk Running Rebels, you know, will be looking for their 3rd straight win. The Griga Dream Ballers will be looking for their 3rd straight win. And I was made to understand that the Griga Dream Ballers will be bringing in an international center to join the team. Will this happen on Saturday night? I am not sure. But what I can tell you is that Daniel Kanarke, he is back with the Griga Dream Ballers. And with Daniel Kanarke, he can play the point. He's a big point guard. He can take the smaller guards down in the paint and utilize that part of his game. He is a very good rebounder, and he's a very good defender. So I can see this Griga Dream Ballers team making a stride, making a serious run with the rest of games that is ahead of them. And so the BEBL is only getting interesting week in and week out. With that being said, I want to say it was a pleasure to be here with you on TNC Sports Tonight to bring you another edition. Always enjoy being in the studio sharing the sports, what took place over the weekend before. And with that being said, I just want to say God bless you. Continue to enjoy your night. Have a good night. Thank you for joining us. See you next week.